Did you watch the BBC documentary?
I did. That is where my confusion started. I was like, these people, are they telling the truth? Why didn't they say this when he was still alive?
But he's still alive. What do you mean when he was still alive?
Here comes another thing, Prof. X. If he's still alive, who was that in that glass coffin? What happened that day? Because there was someone in that glass coffin. It was him. And when he was there in the church, people were manifesting, some were vomiting blood. So what was happening with those people? I was like, hey, this one is a real man of God. Even at his death, people are still you know what? I'm just confused, and my heart is so hurt. I
Have
can't.
you ever sat down to think, why did he make the coffin transparent?
Hi, Prof. X. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine.
Talk to me.
Yeah, you know what? I've been listening to you for some time now, but I believe some of the things, but some of them, they just confuse me. Like the issue of Prophet TB Joshua. I'm not a daughter of Prophet TB Joshua. I used to listen to him when he was still alive. But when I started listening to what you are saying, I stopped listening to all of those things, and I was once a daughter of one prominent prophet back home in Zimbabwe. I'm telling you, what you're saying is true. But when it comes to this particular TB Joshua, I get so confused. I don't know what to believe. You know why I'm saying that? If you look at his sermons, his preachings, he was preaching the word of God. There is no sermon of his that I can point out and say, in this sermon, maybe he was talking about prosperity, money, blah, blah, blah. So those things, no. But then the other thing that confuses me is this. If you see his services, they were healings were happening. That is where the biggest confusion is. You would see people giving birth in church, like live. You would see people coming back after 10 years with testimonies. They came there sick, dying 10 years before they are back again. They would come back again, The healing is still there. Fibroids were falling in church. You could see blood. They would run upstairs. You would see them removing their pads. You see blood clots there. Those kind of things, they just confuse me. So if you can elaborate to me, how do those healings happen? If he was not a man of God, or he's truly not a man of God, how did those healings happen? You understand? That is what is confusing me. And then when it comes to this prominent prophet in Zimbabwe,
Magaya.
Yes. How did you know? How did you know about that?
I can see in the realms of the spirit.
Oh, when I think of the money that I spent going to guest houses, he was coming to Pretoria almost every weekend for services, and I listen to what you are saying, I feel like flying to Harare and tear him to pieces, It's only now that I realize, the last time I went to the guest house when he came to South Africa, my spirit didn't want. But because I was so used to it, and I was telling myself he's a true man of God, I went there, but I knew that my spirit doesn't want this. I paid the money, I went. But 2 days before going there, I dreamt, I had a dream. I was having flames. It's like my head was burning on the center of my head. But this fire was not touching my skin. I couldn't feel any pain, but I could see that my head was burning, but the fire was not too much. So I was trying to stop the fire, but it couldn't stop. It was still burning. It wasn't burning me or anything else, but I could see there is fire. Then I didn't want to go there. After going to the guest house, everything went upside down. When he laid his hand on me on that particular week when he came after having that dream, now I'm just thinking maybe God was showing me my glory. Maybe he was telling me, if you go there, this glory is going to be taken away. I don't know. But since then, I just didn't understand him. Before even you talked about him, I stopped going. My spirit didn't want me to go anymore. And then when it comes to him being the son of TB Joshua, spiritual son, sometimes I wonder what really happened. Because if you check, before TB Joshua died, he was no longer going to SCON. Even when TB Joshua died, he was never at that funeral. It's only the wife that was seen. He was never there. But when he goes to church, he'll be saying, I went to synagogue. I went to the funeral. I went to the burial. He was not there. And I asked myself that if he was truly the son of TB Joshua, now that I know he's not a true man of God, how come it looks like they were no longer in good books by the time TB Joshua died? So sometimes I then think that maybe TB Joshua realized he was doing something that he's not supposed to do. Then he took him off, you know. And then sometimes I think that I have seen Chris, you once went to TB Joshua, Hubert Angel once went there, you know, some prophets that are now doing this, all these things that you are mentioning, they went there. But if you check, they went there some time back, like Chris and Hubert, they went there a long time ago. So sometimes what I think, Prof X, I need us to talk about this. Sometimes what I think, not talking about what you are saying, what I think sometimes is that maybe it could be that these prophets or these pastors, they went to TB Joshua that time and they were expecting to be as powerful as he was, but they couldn't. So after realizing they can't be on his level, they then went to Benin. Now, when we are looking at what they are doing, because they have been to TB Joshua, we will now think that they are sons and daughters of TB Joshua, which means they took all the powers, the dark powers from TB Joshua. Maybe that is what happened. Because if you check, they went there a long time ago. Pastor Chris, the last time I saw the clip, it was years back. If you check, even Hubert Angels, I never knew he went there until TB Joshua died. That's when you were saying, I once went to synagogue. I was like, this one has been there also. But it's been a long time. Maybe they went there wanting to acquire the same power that he had, but they saw that they couldn't. Then they chose to do the shortcut. So now when we are looking at everything about these prophets and Prophet TB Joshua, we now think that they took those things from there, yet that's not the case. What do you think about that?
Okay, let's start with the miracles. I'll get to this one that you raised up.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to synagogue?
No, I've never been there.
So all these miracles we're talking about, where exactly did you see them?
I used to see them on the television, the live services or the replays of the live service that were happening some time back, and the testimonies on live services, people who will come 10 years after they show the clip. That is how I used to see them. I've never been there.
Okay, do you have Netflix?
Yes, I do.
Do you watch reality shows there or any series?
I've watched Bisola.
No, I'm not talking about the Bisola thing, just in general, movies, Western movies and some reality shows or any series that are put on Netflix. Do you watch them?
Yes, I do.
Do you get emotional sometimes when you watch some movies and stuff?
Yes, I do.
Do you feel involved in the movie sometimes? You get afraid when the person you like is being attacked and you are happy when the person you like is...
Yes, sometimes I'm telling him what to do and what to do while I'm sitting out here. Yeah, it happens, yes.
All those people are paid to make you feel that way in movies.
Okay.
That's the very same thing TB Joshua was doing. He was paying people to come and act to be sick, so that he can move your emotions.
What about those he was praying for? They are pregnant and a baby would go down. What kind of?
But you know their level of con artistry. If the baby is already due, if the baby is already 9 months, it's only a matter of time as to when. But when it's 9 months, any time, any minute. All those people that you saw him healing or delivering upon his touch, all of them were Jew. TB Joshua had so much money to even go to the hospital or to choose specific hospitals of mothers who couldn't afford their medical bills and promise them a lot of money and bring them to the shrine and tell them or even give them a concoction that can speed up the reaction. And make them drink prior to his deliverance shenanigans. The extent to which they can go to make you people believe that they have power is unimaginable. Those people, when they came to that shrine, they knew they were going to give birth on that day. Him touching them, it was just a matter of the woman pushing. They were already having those kind of pains. So that's not a miracle. You giving birth, my sister, when you're 9 months pregnant, is it a miracle?
No, I'm supposed to. When it's 9 months, I have to.
You have to, but if your husband gives birth after being touched by TB Joshua, then it's a miracle. If you're already pregnant, you should give birth.
Yeah.
So I don't understand where the element of a miracle comes in. When he witnessed or when he touched people and then they gave birth. That's not a miracle. It was just a gimmick. Let's talk about the other miracles. There's no single person with a wheelchair that was ever healed by TB Joshua. Not one. All the testimonies that you had at synagogue were all scripted. All the people who gave testimonies in synagogue, they were taught, they were coached how to give those testimonies. They were taken through an orientation before they were given an opportunity to be on television. They were put in a room which they call the emergency room.
Yes, yeah.
Whereby each and everyone will be told, listen, you will say it this way or you say it that way. By the time it is being brought to the TV, it is going to cause an emotional outbreak. All the people who will be watching will believe that, oh, this man of God is powerful. But if he was randomly, or if people were volunteering to say, okay, I have a testimony out of the blue, it would make sense. But all of the people who gave testimonies were grouped first, few days before the event or before the service. And they were told how to present themselves, how to receive, and how to narrate their testimonies. Let's take away the conversation from the testimonies. Now let's go to other miracles that he performed. There were none that were real. All of them were staged. TB Joshua has no power to heal anyone. I know most of you were touching the screen at home. Were you touching the screen at home?
I'm telling you, on Sundays, I would not go anywhere. I
You
would
will be touching
sit
the
and touch the
television,
screen.
receiving.
There's one time I was touching the screen. I had a running stomach that Sunday. I said, hey, it happened. I'm delivered. I was running to toilet, so I was like, oh, everything is coming out now.
There was nothing real about TB Joshua. TB Joshua is the grandmaster of witchcraft. Nothing real about him. He's just a certified witch doctor who was very manipulative, and he knew exactly how to play with people's emotions. But there's no single person who was healed by TB Joshua. Did you watch the BBC documentary?
I did. That is where my confusion started. I was like, these people, are they telling the truth? Why didn't they say this when he was still alive?
But he's still alive. What do you mean when he was still alive?
Hey, here comes another thing, Prof. X. If he's still alive, who was that in that glass coffin? What happened that day? Because there was someone in that glass coffin. It was him. And when he was there in the church, people were manifesting, some were vomiting blood. So what was happening with those people? I was like, hey, this one is a real man of God. Even at his death, people are still you know what? I'm just confused, and my heart is so hurt. I can't.
Have you ever sat down to think, why did he make the coffin transparent?
I thought it was because he was such a big man, so they wanted everyone to see him. Like,
Okay.
if they had put him in a normal coffin, it's only those who were there who were going to be able to see him. But now, because he was a public figure like that, I just thought they wanted everyone to see.
Okay, let me tell you. The reason why he used a transparent coffin, he knew that if it was just going to be a normal burial in a normal coffin, people were not going to believe that he died. And people were going to question his death, because he died without any form of illness prior. I will tell you the reason why he staged his death. But the whole transparent coffin was a gimmick. It was all meant to make the world believe that it's real. Do you know there is an injection that you can take for you to be unconscious for certain hours? Even when you're going through operation.
Yes, I know.
You are dosed so that you become unconscious, right?
Yes, yes.
Exactly. Certain injections were used on TB Joshua so that he can be unalive for a period of time, for certain hours. There's a video that I have, and it's not yet due for me to release it. A video that was recorded by someone very close who eventually left. Where do you think I get all these guts to say TB Joshua is alive? Where do you think I get them? You think I'm
That is what is confusing me. Can't this guy, where is he getting all these things? Really, can the government of Nigeria take such things?
Which government of Nigeria are you talking about? How many things happen in Nigeria and they are just ignored simply because they are being done by powerful people? Leave the government and the law enforcement out of any moral conversations. Don't expect to hold the government accountable to anything in Nigeria, not only in Nigeria, but in any other African country. As long as the person involved has money, anything can be done and undone. Now let's get back to the story of TB Joshua and the transparent coffin. All that was a gimmick to make you all believe that he definitely died. There's a video that I have, that no one else have, that shows TB Joshua's pulse. Remember, there's no one who was ever allowed close to that coffin. No one was allowed. People were just seeing him from a distance. Even during body viewing, people were from a distance. No one was very close to that transparent casket. No one. And the video that I have was not even allowed to be recorded. It was not supposed to be recorded because no one was allowed to record with their phones. It was only the media of the church that was allowed to broadcast that service or that burial ceremony.
Okay.
But it happened that there is someone, I will not mention now. If I mention, their lives will be in danger. But a time is coming. A day is coming when all this information, I'll put it for the public to observe. What I'm just doing here is to just push them to do the right thing and to know that I know that TB Joshua is alive. He's even watching us right now, if I'm not wrong. Because what else can he be doing? He does not have a life now. The only thing he can do is to be stalking us with fake accounts and looking what people are saying. And I'm the only one who has been talking about him faking his death. So I am one of his greatest threats. I am one man that he wish if he could.
Then comes the issue of that building that collapsed.
Wait, before we get to the building collapsing, let's finish with the issue of his death. We'll get there. There are a lot of skeletons in TB Joshua's closet. There are a lot of things that forced him to fake his own death. Apart from the transparent coffin, why do you think he was buried inside synagogue?
You know what? I actually thought that what they did was correct because he was staying there, isn't it? That was his residency. So I thought since he was staying there, maybe the yard is too big. There's space for that. So I didn't see any problem with that.
Is there space in your compound? Can we bury you in your compound when you die?
In the village, you know that happens, yes.
Not the village, I mean in your compound where you're staying.
No, there's no space.
There's no space?
No, for me to be buried, I can't be allowed to be buried in town.
Exactly. Same applies with burying him in a place that is considered to be holy. The reason why he orchestrated this in a way that his body remains, his so-called body remains inside synagogue, was to make sure that no one will have access
to dig up
his remains. Because in Nigeria, the way you people used to worship TB Joshua, if he was going to be buried outside, people were going to dig that grave and they were going to realize that whatever that was inside that,
there's nothing.
There is nothing. So he knew that they will find me out there. They will discover me that I'm not inside that thing. So let's keep it here where it's protected, where no one can access, where no one can investigate.
So, which means this deceivement is still continuing, because the wife is continuing.
Do you think Evelyn can keep that shrine running? Come on. Evelyn has never played any pivotal role during the existence of TB Joshua. And all of a sudden, Evelyn is this mighty woman of God who's taking charge and firing people, dismissing disciples, and maintaining that shrine. Do you think she has the capacity if it's not TB Joshua behind her?
Actually, when I, you know what? When these things happen, there is a way we tend to think, we tend to think, oh, this is what God wanted. With the level that we had so believed him, we saw everything correct.
TB Joshua planned this whole thing. Evelyn knows nothing about ministry. Evelyn is just a puppet now, who's being controlled and being told to do what to do by TB Joshua. TB Joshua is pulling the strings. He's the only one who can keep that shrine running. There's no single disciple of his who was going to take over synagogue and keep it running. There's no single spiritual son of his who was going to take over synagogue and keep it running. Remember, running a shrine of that magnitude, it doesn't take a special skill, but it needs someone who understands the blueprint of how to keep it running. TB Joshua understood how to keep that shrine going. And he knew that had he placed anyone at the top or at the top of the hierarchy of this shrine, not his wife, not someone he can control, one way or the other, it was going to be discovered that he's alive. So when he placed the wife on the forefront, he made sure he removed everyone who was a threat, all the wise men who were a threat. He demoted everyone and fired everyone, expelled everyone, and brought in completely new people that would not dare to question Evelyn. Because there were long-serving spiritual sons in synagogue who were supposed to fill in the shoes of TB.
Yes, true.
Long-serving, who were qualified to fill in the shoes of TB Joshua. But all those were fired, were expelled. And only Evelyn was left. And Evelyn is easy to control. All she had to do is to take orders from the main men. So TB Joshua is still running synagogue through Evelyn. The way TB Joshua is still coordinating all the meetings. Evelyn is not that smart to understand the logistics of how to run a ministry. She's not that clever. TB Joshua had never empowered Evelyn to take over synagogue. He never had the plan of leaving synagogue in the hands of Evelyn. Because he knew he was going to live for a very long time. He could have never planned that when I die, Evelyn would take over. Never. He only used Evelyn
But so
to fill in the shoes so that he can continue running and his whole scandal can remain safe. Otherwise, if anyone else had taken over that shrine, there was going to be a lot of commotion, and that commotion was going to lead to people finding out that TB Joshua still lives. And the whole gimmick was going to be exposed. And the reason why he staged this death, you might be wondering. Let's get to that point now. Those young ladies that he had abused for years, those young white ladies and other African sisters, they went to BBC and they reported that this is what we went through and this is what most young women are going through at synagogue. TB Joshua has been recruiting all these young ladies, beautiful ladies, as his disciples. But we went there thinking that we are going to be taught about the things of God, how to be grounded in the things of God. They were expecting some, spiritual transformation, but only to be turned into wives. According to them, TB Joshua was sleeping with each and every one of them. And at one point, they didn't know that TB Joshua was sleeping with all of them. And when he slept with each and every one of them, he would tell them, you're doing it for God. You are serving God. Thus says the Lord. And according to their testimonies, they would also confess that every time we slept with Papa, we thought we are doing it for God. We thought we are pleasing the Lord. Because that's how much you people believed in him. He was more like a God. You actually thought TB Joshua was a God. And then it got to a point when these young ladies were now talking amongst themselves. You see, there's something that I'm doing with Papa. There's something that I'm doing with Dad. It doesn't feel right. And the other lady will ask, what is it you're doing with him? They'll say, he's sleeping with me. He's making me go down on him. He's doing me all these kind of things, saying that that's the only way I can be delivered. And the other sister is saying, he's doing the same to me. And they'll ask another sister, same applies with me. All of them, they ended up realizing they've been going through the same manipulation under the false pretense of being delivered. That's when their eyes started opening. And they said,
yeah, on that one, I understand what you are saying. But also, look at this. Those ladies, they didn't leave synagogue the time TB Joshua died. They had left already.
Let me land. Wait, let me finish. And they left. They ran away from synagogue. They spent for some time recovering. The other one even came back to synagogue to report the matter. She recorded a video. The video is there.
I saw it. The white lady, ne?
The white lady. She came back saying that
I was watching it yesterday. I was on YouTube and I was watching it. I was like, so this lady was outside synagogue and she was saying this. There's an element of some truth.
No, what do you think there's an element of some truth, my sister?
Because I was still doubting. And now
there's no element of some truth. There's truth there. Do you know how much risk it takes for someone to come and record at TB Joshua's synagogue and calling TB Joshua out, saying that he left with me?
And she said it. I saw that. But
why would she lie about that though? Why would she take that risk if she was not broken? Do you know how much it breaks?
You see what she did? You see what she did there? That's exactly what they were supposed to do the moment they ran away and go to their countries. When something like that is done to me and I want to leave that place and I couldn't, the moment I leave that place and I get to my place, the nearest police station in my country, I will be there. I'll be crazy in that police station.
But my
These
sister,
ladies, they kept quiet.
wait, you did not follow the documentary then. You did not listen to their stories and the documents that they brought out. That's the first thing that they did when they got to their countries, to report this matter to the police, to the Interpol. And when they reported it, they saw the process was taking long. They went to BBC to make a report again. When they saw the process was taking long, she even dared to come back. She came back to Nigeria to confront TB Joshua, because that's how broken she was. There is no police in Nigeria that she could have called or told, because TB Joshua is a god in Nigeria.
No, Shaya, in Nigeria, they couldn't do that.
There is nothing you can do in Nigeria against TB Joshua or Chris Oyakilome. Chris Oyakilome has his son called Daysman, who recruits Ethiopian young ladies and turn them into wives. He runs a brothel under the nose of Chris Oyakilome. We reported that case to the police and nothing, no investigation has been done yet, because money talks. What police do you think was going to intervene in the case of TB Joshua from few white ladies who had the guts to expose TB Joshua? So she did make all those reports the moment she arrived in her country of origin. And she waited for the process to take place until they got reach of BBC. When they submitted their stories to BBC, then BBC, as a reputable organization, they compiled the stories all together. After compiling the stories, they called TB Joshua for him to comment, for him to give his side of the story. It was at that point when TB Joshua was called by BBC, then he realized that things are going to get messed up. Being an African prophet, it does not make him any smart in any way. Even if he had millions of people following him, even if he has convinced the world that he's a man of God, he still started thinking, BBC, white ladies, if I'm going to be exposed by BBC, which means the whole wide world, the whole world is going to know about this, and I'm going to be disgraced. Because he knew what he had done to these people. So he did not know how many women are coming, because he had done this to so many young people. So the idea of BBC, it really made him go mad. He started thinking, how are people going to see me now? How are people going to treat me now? That holy look that I had portrayed, my entire world has crumbled. My entire legacy has been destroyed. Do you know what happened after he received that call? Do you know?
No. The death.
3 days later, I'm not 3, 1, 2, 3, an announcement was made. TB Joshua is no more. 3 days later.
Was it 3 days later?
3 days later, after the call from BBC, TB Joshua was dead. And this call was not a call of people who have finalized the documentary.
They wanted to hear his side.
The whole documentary was still at its preliminary stage. They were still gathering facts. The videos were not yet recorded of the documentary. But 3 days later, after they received a call from BBC, that's when he died. And when he staged his death, he thought by staging his death, he's going to suppress the BBC documentary. Because when he's gone, there's no more need for us to do a documentary. That's what he thought. Not knowing that him faking his death or staging his own death is not going to stop the BBC. Because one would think, okay, if I'm no longer there, they'll see no need to expose me. The reason why they are going to expose me is because I'm alive. But if I am no longer, he miscalculated this whole thing. So he staged his entire death and just held on tight, hoping that this will not come out. And it took some time before the BBC even came with the documentary. Because from that point, that's when they started gathering all the other victims. And I'm sure the BBC also did not go that extra mile to investigate this matter, because they were also, feeling kind of low that, okay, now that the man is gone,
yes, yeah,
what is the purpose of even doing this documentary? You understand? But they still had to do it for the sake of doing it as a media house. But if he was still alive, they were going to gather even more victims. On that documentary, TB Joshua's own daughter, called Ajoke, testified. So I don't understand what is
that one. That one, they said he adopted. Was it a lie?
It was a lie. That was his own daughter.
From a different woman?
From a different woman. And that woman came to drop that child in the church.
Or the story that the child was dropped in the church is true. That part is the truth. But it was his biological daughter.
The woman brought that child to TB Joshua. And TB Joshua had to take the fatherly responsibility of raising that child. But he did not want it to look as if this child is coming from a different woman since he was married to Evelyn. So he had to stage it again so that it looks like he's adopting this child.
Hey.
So he started recording the child and doing all sorts of things so that Ajoke will come across as an adopted child. How many homeless kids are in Nigeria? How many has he adopted? Why only Ajoke? TB Joshua, only of all the children that needs to be adopted, why did he not take the child to a home? Why bring Ajoke and make Ajoke his own daughter? He could have supported Ajoke. He could have even asked anyone from the church to take responsibility of Ajoke. And he could have financed that family. Or he could have taken Ajoke to a home. Why do you think he saw the need to make Ajoke his own daughter and raise Ajoke under his own roof? That was his own daughter with another woman that was brought to him by this woman. And when this child was brought to him, he also realized that it's his child. And if you look at Ajoke and TB Joshua, they look alike. So he said the only way that he can fool people and remain holy in the eyes of people is by staging how Ajoke came into his life. So they dropped Ajoke, they started recording, oh, this is how this child came. Oh, this is how this child came. Oh, let's take him. Me, the man of God, I'm going to take responsibility of this child. And there, boom. At least if he adopted 2 more children or 5 more, we would understand that he was that kind of a man who had the heart to adopt children. Why only Ajoke? That was his biological daughter. That is his biological daughter with another woman.
Yeah, that makes sense though, because he could have adopted a lot more.
That shrine is huge, it's massive. He could have actually set up an entire home structure in that shrine if he was really driven to help.
Ano kwamo mianka na awodi nipa pina ekwa tete mu pao amani pampempema wale agu odia sampa spiritual and herbal center awo wo mo yade se wo mbe mu wanya basisi a yade bi tse stroke gonorrhea anabama wale mre e wampamu low sperm count wo mo anu aduro tatahwe ene je sam ne se sabane sunsumu nsama wo mo telete se ye sunsumu aware anasa yare bi ne yade amawo pampabone anabo ana wanya abai amane e court case wo betu charge osisia enam omadwuma panti ni pampempem ene be fo bokofie ekoye sunsumu nyuma edemom se mosini ene enzimani akabom dia sunsumu niama asie betu obi aje wukunu anasa woyere awaresem adwumasem akwantuom nsem ni nyina ayasumasem fabadan odia sampa spiritual and herbal center obehuyan of
New Koforidua ejoso ne konongo infinfin aye Ashanti region ehon ma number aye didi dwuma no aye 054 330 4976 and I say 020 134 0421 054 330 4976 and I say 020 134 0421.
Odia Sampa Spiritual and Herbal Center. You be do us some amount.